I never imagined that my mother's sacrifice would lead us from poverty to unimaginable wealth. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a rainy afternoon. The sky was dark, clouds swirling ominously. I sat on the rickety couch, gripping a tattered book, my knuckles white. The smell of damp wood filled the room. My heart raced, the rhythm loud against the silence. I could feel something heavy in the air, a tension that wrapped around my chest. Mom was out there, somewhere. She had left early, embracing the cold rain as if it could wash away the burdens of our lives. She had promised to find work, but promises felt thin in our crumbling world. I could still hear her whispered dreams, a lullaby in the night. "Well, have a better life," she'd said, her eyes shining with a fierce light. But every day was a struggle, and hope felt like a distant star that I glanced at the clock. Each tick echoed in my ears, a reminder of her absence. It was after 5, and the shadows grew longer. I couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was about to happen. Minutes crawled by, punctuated only by the distant sound of thunder. My chest tightened. Where was she? I stood up, pacing. The carpet was frayed, and the worn fibers scratched against my bare feet. Our neighbors' laughter floated in from outside, mocking me like a ghost haunting my heart. They had families who cared, and I had uncertainty. I peeked through the window, rain streaking the glass like tears falling from a sad sky. As I turned back, the front door swung open, and there she was. But something was different. She was soaked, her hair plastered to her forehead, her eyes wide and wild. I could barely make out the words that spilled from her lips, frantic and breathless. "You won't believe what I found," the air crackled. It felt like the universe held its breath. "What?" I asked, my voice trembling, too scared to hope. She took a step forward, glancing back as if someone might be chasing her. Strange shadows flitted behind her. "A treasure," she whispered, urgency wrapping around each syllable. "But it comes with a price, my love." Fear gripped me hard, a cold hand around my throat. I could see it in her eyes, the desperation mingling with excitement. I took a step back. "A treasure? What kind of treasure?" Her lips quirked into a mysterious smile, but I felt the weight of 1,000 questions. "Money? Gold? Gems?" The room swirled around me, the walls closing in. I needed answers. My heart raced faster, every beat screaming for clarity. As she held out something glinting in her palm, the light caught it. I gasped. It was a key. But not just any key. It was intricately designed, covered in peculiar symbols, shimmering almost like it breathed. "This," she said, "is just the beginning." That I could feel the storm raging outside, or maybe it was just the chaos inside me. We weren't just poor. We were desperate. Yet, in her eyes, I saw a flicker of hope. But there was something else, a shadow lurking behind that light. What did this mean? What was the cost of this newfound wealth? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The key shimmered in my mother's palm, a metaphorical weight that pressed against my heart. I couldn't help but feel that it was more than just an object, it was a harbinger of change, of truth, of possibly dire consequences. I shifted my gaze from the key to her face, searching for some indication of what lay ahead. Her eyes, usually a comforting shade of brown, now flickered with an unrecognizable intensity. What does it unlock? My voice spoke tentatively, barely above a whisper. Each word felt heavy with anticipation. The air around us felt electric, charged with potential and fear. It unlocks a door, but not just any door," she murmured as she stepped closer. "It's a door to a life we've only dreamed of. But we must be careful. There are shadows sometimes tied to treasure, my love." The thunder crackled outside, a dramatic punctuation to her words that sent a shiver down my spine. I took a step back, the reality sinking in. I was only 16, grappling with the complexities of life while my mother carried the weight of our future on her shoulders. "What shadows? What do you mean?" I pressed, striking at the edges of her clarity. She seemed to wrestle with her thoughts, her hands trembling ever so slightly. "In order to seize this opportunity, we might need to make sacrifices," she admitted, her voice wavering. "Not all of them pleasant." The word sacrifice hung thick in the room, stirring memories of past inconveniences we had endured, each one a penance paid on the path to survival. "What if the cost is too high?" I whispered, my heart clenching at the thought. "Are we really prepared for this?" "For whatever it is," she leaned closer, her forehead wrinkling with concern. "We've endured so much pain, sweetheart. Don't you want, no, don't you deserve more? A life without worry?" Her voice caught, the desperation bubbling through. "I'm scared, too. But I'll do what I must to ensure you have everything." A flicker of uncertainty filled the space between us. I wanted to believe her, to feel the warmth of hope enfold me, but the shadows danced at the edge of my thoughts. Growing up immersed in struggle, we knew far too well that the pursuit of wealth often came with a perilous price tag. Just then, there was a loud bang, startling both of us. A figure stood at the door, a tall man, draped in a long coat and drenched from the rain, peering in with an intensity that sent chills racing down my spine. My mother's expression shifted from excitement to alarm, a deep-rooted instinct rising within her. "Who are you?" she demanded, stepping protectively in front of me, her body language that of a barricade. The man remained silent, his gaze fixed on the key in her hand, the storm reflecting a wild confusion in his eyes. "It's not safe," he croaked, his voice rough like gravel. "You have something that belongs to others." My mother's grip tightened around the key, and I felt her tremor resonate through her frame. "What do you mean?" "Some things, once unlocked, can never be returned." He took a hesitant step closer, the shadows of the storm swirling behind him, adding a sense of foreboding. "They come at a cost more than you could ever imagine." As the words hung in the air, the reality of the unspeakable choices began to crystallize around us. I felt a sudden rush of hope intertwined with dread. My mother's ambition could drag us from darkness but could also lead us deeper into uncharted territories. Mom's reluctance faltered, and the resolve in her eyes flickered like a dying flame. My heart raced. I was torn between the allure of a better life and the fear of being ensnared by forces we could not comprehend. "I need answers," I blurted, unwilling to let this moment slip away. I turned to my mother, pulling the attention back towards us. "Are we really prepared to open that door?" The man's eyes darted from me to my mother, the tension palpable. "You must decide quickly. The storm isn't just outside," he cautioned, voice low. "There's a darkness that waits." And suddenly, with that cryptic warning, I felt the first chill of true fear. If we chose to chase the light, what part of ourselves might we have to surrender? Backlit by flashes of lightning and threatened by the storm that raged both outside and within, we stood at the precipice of our choices, teetering on the brink, no longer just a struggle for survival but a dive into the uncertain depths of desire and consequence. And before I could voice my thoughts, the strange man glanced back outside, alarm skimming his features. "They're here," he warned, a tremor in his voice. My heart dropped. No longer was it just a key, it was a key that had attracted darkness, shadows that I couldn't see yet but felt creeping ever closer. I looked at my mother, whose resolve now wavered in the face of the unknown. What had we truly unleashed? Rainwater dripped like sorrow from the eaves, pooling in muddy puddles beneath our feet as the man's words echoed relentlessly in my mind. "They're here." Fear clawed at my insides, highlighting every nerve, every heartbeat. It felt as though the heavens themselves had opened up over our fragile existence, exposing our vulnerabilities to whatever malevolence lurked in the dark. "Who's here?" I barely managed to form the question, searching my mother's face for reassurance, but all I found was a shadow that stretched across her features. The tall man stepped forward, brow furrowed, casting his gaze back toward the door as if sensing the encroachment of an unseen threat. "Those who seek the key," he murmured, his voice low, laden with urgency. The atmosphere thickened, intertwining our fragile hope with an impending dread that seemed to wrap around us like the storm itself. "They know you have it, why would anyone care about a key?" I asked, the desperation in my voice betraying my naive bravado. But part of me understood. Keys open doors, and some doors change everything. They believe it can lead them to what they desire most, he replied, looking directly at my mother. It can plunge you into both wealth and peril, giving rise to greed and desperation. He paused, searching our faces for comprehension. You must choose, keep it or destroy it. Then all at once, there was a pounding, reverberating through the walls and around the door frame, the sound sending pulses of adrenaline through my veins. My mother started, her eyes wide with fear, but determination quickly overcame her shock. "We can't let them in," she declared, pushing me further back into the shadows of our small home, a sanctuary turned potential prison. Is there even a choice?" I asked, my voice shaky as I clutched the wall beside me. "Can we really destroy what could change our lives?" My heart raced with conflicting emotions as I thought of Yusuf, our struggles, and the dreams my mother had spoken of, the promise of a life without worry. A soft thump against the door sent a jolt through me. I leaned into my mother. "What if they're stronger than us?" I articulated, the palpable fear swirling within me. She remained silent, biting her lip as conflicting emotions played out on her face. The man spoke again, his voice low and steady despite the chaos surrounding us. "We cannot afford to be afraid of their strength, but we must tread carefully. A sacrifice is needed, perhaps one neither of you is ready for. Sometimes to protect what you love, you must let go of the very thing that tempts you." The pounding intensified, suffusing the room with thudding breaths and heavy anticipation. I could feel my mother's heartbeat in the space between us, steady yet frantic, a stark contrast to the uncertainty wrapping itself around us all. "What do you mean?" she asked, steering his enigmatic words towards clarity as I clung to them like a lifebuoy. "Your love, your dreams, what price were you willing to pay to secure them?" He replied cryptically, revealing an understanding of our plight that both unnerved and intrigued me. "Sometimes the shadows don't come from the outside, they are birthed from the choices we dare to embrace." With that revelation hanging heavily in the air, the storm outside morphed into an unholy symphony of fury, every clap of thunder echoing my trepidation. I caught a glimpse of my mother, her expression momentarily conflicted, as if grappling with the magnitude of what lay before us. The depths of her ambition were suddenly tempered with fear and regret, shadows of her past choices swirling into the darkness of the present, and then it dawned on me, a glimmer of something that flickered in the midst of despair. "There are those who find hope in their struggles," I suggested, tugging at the thread of possibility, "people who would sacrifice their comfort for others' happiness. Maybe it's not just about us." The man looked at me, surprised, before his features softened, as if seeing something in me he hadn't before. My mother shifted, her face a mirror reflecting emerging sympathy mixed with sorrow. "You mean," she hesitated, "we can help others too?" "Yes." I pressed, a surge of conviction swelling within me. Our sacrifices could give someone else a chance. We might not need to keep the key at all if we're brave enough to unlock hope for each other. But before we could continue, there was a sudden crash, shattering glass that rippled with the sound of urgency. The door buckled under the onslaught of whoever had come looking for the key. "Make your choice," the man hissed, eyes wide with alarm. Now, as chaos erupted, I felt the weight of the key heavy in my hand, its potential vibrating through my fingers. In that moment, gazing into the eyes of my mother, I saw the depth of her love colliding with a desperate need for survival. Together, we teetered on the edge of a discovery that could alter our lives irrevocably. With pounding hearts and breathless anticipation, we faced the door, the sound of splintering wood heralding a revelation as ominous shadows cascaded into the room. The choice lay before us, shimmering in the wake of the storm, a sacrifice that could either solidify our bond or tear us apart in its wake. What awaited us on the other side of that door? And what price would we ultimately pay for our desire to unlock the future? The door splintered as a fierce gust swept through the threshold, a cold rush of wind that felt like a harsh invitation into the chaos that transformed our once tranquil sanctuary. Heartbeats thudded in my ears as shadows pressed forward, enveloping us with the weight of a darkness that felt Olivia living, malicious entity made hungry by desperation. The man took a step closer, a steadfast protector in a swirling storm, positioning himself between us and the encroaching figures. He shouted through the blinding noise, his voice battling against the thunder and the howling wind. "Whatever you do, do not let them touch the key." The urgency of his command crystallized our surroundings, animating the terror curling in my stomach. I glanced at my mother, whose eyes were wide, mirroring my own fear varnished with determination. "Trust me," she mouthed, her presence steadying me against the tempest. I nodded, unable to find the words as panic whispered in my mind. Just then, a figure loomed in the doorway, backlit by the stormy sky like an incarnation of our fears. "There's no need for violence," the voice purred, dripping with ease even in chaos, a chilling contrast to the frantic urgency swirling around us. "We believe the key is better off in capable hands. Give it to us willingly, and we can assure you safety and a future. No. I erupted, the fire of rebellion igniting within me. "You don't understand. Safety at that price isn't worth it." The truth bubbled forth, fueled by instinct. The key was a symbol, both of what we could have and what we might lose. Is it worth your mother's safety? The figure retorted coolly, their gaze flickering to her like a spider sizing up a trapped fly. My heart seized as the weight of their words wrapped around us, tightening like a noose. The room spun as dread curled its fingers around my throat. "It's more than just a key," I stammered, desperation lacing my voice, begging for an understanding that danced just out of reach. "It represents everything we could give. A poor lives wouldn't be worth living if it meant sacrificing each other." The words surged from my heart, imbuing me with a conviction that propelled me forward. The shadows at the door edged closer, snickering, their confidence waxing with each moment we hesitated. A part of me screamed to retreat, to hide the key away and disappear into the safety of whatever mundane life awaited us without further risk. But another part, the bolder part that clung to my mother's resolute gaze, urged me to stand my ground. "That we must make a choice," my mother urged, her hands trembling ever so slightly as she clutched my arm. Her love radiated around us, weaving through the chaos like a lifeline, anchoring me to the possibility of hope amid tumult. Suddenly, the man stepped forward, his expression resolute, betraying no fear. "What you seek cannot be taken, it must be given. Only then will the strength of your love guide the key." His voice carried a weight that both grounded and mystified. There was a profound wisdom within that solidity that momentarily quelled our panic. The door buckled again, this time more violently, sending shards of wood crashing to the floor as the figure behind it made an intimidating entrance. Another emerged, and then more, their intentions fracturing our already precarious reality like a shattered mirror reflecting countless possibilities. "If you cannot give it, we will take it, and that shall mean your doom," they sneered, anticipation lining their features as they pushed forward. The room felt smaller, the shadows more oppressive. The prospect of losing everything loomed larger than ever. Then, in the fullness of that moment when dread seemed insurmountably, a gentle hand touched my shoulder from behind. I turned to find a girl no older than me, with soft eyes that sparkled oddly in the dark, as though she contained her own starlit heavens. Her presence was an unexpected balm against the fierce storm surrounding us, catching me off guard. "We can help each other," she said quietly. "I know what the key is. It can unlock more than just doors, it can unlock hope even for those who seek it." A flicker of warmth ignited within me, connecting with the resonance of her words. "But what price will we pay?" I whispered, a veil of trepidation still shrouding my heart. "The price reflects our choices," she replied, unflinching. "We must learn to release what binds us if we are to find true freedom. Only unity can combat darkness." Her simplicity cut through the chaos like a beacon, but then a loud crash ricocheted through the hallway, causing us all to spin back toward the splintered door. There, a figure stood, ominous and drenched, the rain running like veins down their face. An unmistakable silhouette I recognized. My breath caught, heart hammering wildly against my chest. It was someone I thought I had lost forever, a member of our past, part of the fabric that had woven so much of what I believed about loyalty, sacrifice, and love. And with their return, came the tidal wave of memories, bittersweet yet thrilling, weaving a web of complexities I had buried deep. "Help me," they gasped, tension tightening around us as the encroaching figures gathered like thunderclouds on the horizon. In that moment, everything shifted, and the stakes rocketed into uncharted territory. What had I unleashed? Would this new ally strengthen us, or break us further apart when facing the sinister intentions gathering at our doorstep? The key pulsed in my grip, a reminder of the sacrifices yet to come and the looming choices that awaited. The door loomed once more, teetering on the edge of breaking wide open into hope or oblivion. The air thickened with unspoken words as I absorbed the very essence of the figure before me. Each droplet of rain clung to them like burdens unaccounted for, intricate threads of our shared history woven tightly into the fabric of this moment. A name teetered on the edge of my consciousness: Dylan. The boy who once filled our days with laughter and dreams, now a specter pulled from the shadows, gasping for salvation. Dylan. I breathed, his name feeling foreign on my tongue, twisted and frail like a forgotten lullaby. He had vanished in the midst of the chaos that consumed our lives, swallowed by uncertainties that turned our world upside down. My heart danced between joy and dread, an unsettling mix of past bonds tightly entwined with the fragile present. "I am not safe," he stammered, his eyes darting to the gathering darkness, then back to me, heavy with a weight I wished I could share. "They're here. They've come for the key. I thought I could destroy it." I thought that the shadows surged forward, their malicious intent sharpening like the glimmer of knives hidden behind smiles. The man who had protected us stood resolute still, fists clenched, but uncertainty flickered behind the glint in his eyes. This was not the peaceful resolution we had envisioned, it was a battlefield manifesting in the remnants of our sanctuary. As the storm raged outside, spilling frigid air through the jagged door, an electric tension prickled across my skin. "You don't understand," I implored Dylan, desperate to tether him to this moment, our moment. "We need to unite. We need the key." That last word felt heavy, reverberating between us like a haunting melody, a high-stakes game now threading through our lives. "That I tried to forget the key," he replied, anguish cutting deep through his voice. "I thought if I could just erase it, erase everything, we could be free. I was wrong. It's not just a key, it's a part of us." His confession hung in the air, a testament to the tumultuous journey that had split us apart. In his eyes, I saw the reflection of shared dreams and tears we'd shed for each other. The weight of sacrifice danced agonizingly close, a delicate waltz of choices and regrets, but the shadows were relentless, shifting closer as darkness enveloped the edges of our hope. "If you want to escape, give us the key," the ominous figure beckoned again, their voice coated in a sinister sweetness. "You can forget all of this, forget him," they gestured disdainfully toward Dylan, as if he were merely a problem to be dismissed. "No." I shouted, my determination firing up warmth within the chill. "You don't know what you're asking for. You think you understand sacrifice. You don't. This is not just about survival, it's about love." The words felt like flares amidst the inexorable storm, igniting something within me that I hadn't realized was flickering out. But it struck me then, what was I truly willing to pay? My gaze swung back to my mother, her face a wellspring of love and fortitude against the unraveling chaos. She had given so much already, would I add to her burden or share the weight? Suddenly, the girl with the starlit eyes murmured beside me. "The key can bind or liberate, but it's only as strong as the heart that carries it." Her sincerity filled the room, carving a small glimmer of hope against the night, but before I could respond, a deafening crack thundered through the hall as the door buckled under relentless force. Another surge came, knocking the man beside us backward, his footing unsteady as a new wave of figures poured into our fragile space, seizing upon the chaos with feral glee. In the flare of lightning, I glimpsed a familiar face, another embodiment of my past, a sister lost in time, her eyes so filled with fear they seemed to absorb the light. "I was following Dylan," she cried, reaching for him, her voice trembling against the tempest. "I was trying to find you all. We need to escape now, but how could we escape when the very key that once symbolized security was now a potential trigger for our unraveling?" "Together," I shouted, rallying the trembling fragments of my heart. "Into a beacon. We face this together. I could feel the way our souls intertwined, a tapestry of uncertainty but also of unity, coursing through every nerve and heartbeat, yet, even as I spoke, doubt slithered into my mind. What if I had led them here? What if my choice to keep the key, to uphold our connection, had invited disaster upon disaster? The weight of my decisions pressed heavier than the storm outside. Dylan grasped my hand, a lifeline that reverberated with shadows of old affection. But any sense of comfort shattered as the ominous figure facing us, their smile twisted coldly by darkness, unveiled a final revelation. You imagine love is enough? It has always been a weakness. You'll see that soon enough, and with that, the doorway seemed to widen, not with opportunity but with peril, the thrumming of threats eclipsing the beating of our hearts. Each second raced forward, taunting us with riddled choices and fated promises. Would we escape into the encroaching darkness, or would we discover our path together in the fading remnants of a past that promised both salvation and doom? As the shadows surged one last time, the room shuddered beneath their weight, pushing us toward an intersection of fate that would inevitably force a choice one neither I nor my family could anticipate, with the key dangling precariously between us and everything we had yet to face. Rain pelted down as an additional thunder crashed overhead, resounding deep inside me, reverberating with my fears. The weight of our choices pressed upon my chest, the echoes of urgency drawing primal instincts to the forefront. I looked desperately around at my familiar mother standing steadfast, Dylan trembling beside me, and my sister, Eliza, her eyes wide with apprehension. Shadows writhed, growing larger, more ominous as time slipped through our fingers that I could sense a change in the air, a moment teetering between despair and hope. I shut my eyes for a brief second, allowing memories of our old laughter to flood through the darkness, shared cupcakes during sleepy afternoons, familial hugs, and our highly anticipated movie nights that stretched into the dawn. Those simple joys felt like another world, one I was terrified of losing for the next rush of danger. Dylan, I turned to him, my voice shaking slightly yet strong with conviction. You need to trust me. We'll find a way. We always have, but at what cost? He breathed, anguish pinching the corners of his mouth. I made mistakes. I thought I could work alone. I thought the key could be destroyed. His hands trembled, fingers lingering on the walls, desperate for something to hold on to, as if seeking strength from the very structure around us. They'll never let us go if they find it. The ominous figure took a step closer, shrouded in threats and embodying everything we feared. The shadows seemed to drift along them like a dark variant of smoke, wrapping around their limbs. Your love blinds you to reality, they sneered, a predatory glint sparking their eyes. Let the boy go. You are only prolonging the inevitable. You can save yourselves. Be quiet. Eliza shouted, anger igniting with revolutionary fire. You're nothing without our love. She stepped forward, and I watched in awe as she took on a role I never expected, a fierce protector forging a flicker of defiance in the storm. Dylan looked at her, and for a moment, we all shared the same thought: love would fight against darkness. It felt almost surreal, like we were characters in a story with an unfathomable plot, yet driven by the one thing that could bind us to any outcome. Mom, the hatch in the attic. I exclaimed suddenly, glancing over my shoulder. If we can reach it, there might be enough space to escape through the back. It connects to the old renovations we never finished. They might not know about it. My mother's eyes lightened for a brief moment before the shadows encroached on her light. Are you sure? What if it leads us into further danger? We have no choice. I replied, more desperate than I intended. If we stay, we'll lose everything. They want the key, and we refuse to give it. We'll face it together, but we have to go, now. The shadows loomed closer, closing in like a predator encircling prey, cutting off avenues of escape as their glee grew more palpable. A heartbeat thrummed in unison with our breath as we rushed towards the stairwell leading to the attic. Each step felt heavy with the gathered weight of the world, the certainty of sacrifice hanging in the air. That we can do this, we must remember who we are. I shouted over the rising din. Suddenly the house groaned. The walls shook as if they too were rebelling against the overwhelming sense of dread. I reached the attic door, flinging it open, and immediately sensed a welcome wind threading through, cooling our heated skins. But my heart dropped as I stepped inside first. The roof had seen better days, with decaying beams and dust swirling thickly. Here. I pointed to a loose panel near the edge. If we can slide it open. The three of us heaved, and both Dylan and Eliza, hearts racing, joined me in prying the old wood away, revealing a narrow shaft leading through beams of the house. Then, without warning, a piercing scream shattered the air, echoing through the walls. It was my mother, clutching a Lakita delicate piece that shimmered ghastly but beautifully in the dim light as if it pulsed with untold secrets. "No!" she cried out, a look of horror plastered on her face. "My heart raced as the figure charged toward her in a blur. "You should have never brought that here," they shrieked, lunging even as we scrambled through our fragile escape. The world outside erupted in chaos. The ultimate battle still raged, but my focus narrowed painfully on the danger closing in on us. Time halted as I glanced back, seeing a flicker of resolve in my mother's eyes. A moment struck me, an echo of sacrifice I may not fully comprehend yet but understood would shape our fates forever. "Mom, no!" I shouted, but the primal surge driving our escape propelled me forward, even as I prepared for an inevitable unraveling. As I stepped into the shaft of darkness, I caught a last glimpse of her, fierce but tremulous, brandishing the locket like a torch against the night. She whispered words I couldn't grasp, shattering something deep within me. My body turned involuntarily, adrenaline driven, as the harsh creak of the house split the air, a harbinger of a shattering truth. It wouldn't end here. The shadows roared, and just before I slipped completely into the unknown darkness, I felt the clenching grip of destiny sparking with overwhelming new truths and the screech of a ghostly revelation. A fleeting confession whispered at the edge of my memory, tinged with the lingering possibility of betrayal and love, promised to shift everything I thought I knew. And as I plunged deeper into uncertainty, a whisper followed. Love is not just a bond. It is in sacrifices. Sometimes, the costs are higher than expected. The darkness enveloped me completely as I crawled through the narrow passage, breathless in the wake of what had just happened. I could still hear the echoes of my mother's whispered incantations hanging in the air, a haunting melody intertwined with my racing heartbeat. Each inch forward felt like a deliberate defiance against the shadows that threatened to consume us. We had leaped into the depths of uncertainty, but there was no turning back. "Keep moving," Dylan urged, his voice a strained whisper almost lost in the surrounding gloom. I squeezed through the jagged edges of the shaft, the old wood biting into my arms. Eliza's hand clasped mine tightly, anchoring me as we forged ahead. Just as we reached a small opening, light flickered at the end, an ethereal beacon that made me question the terrains of this world. What awaited us on the other side? The perfect harmony of hope and terror danced in my chest, a precarious balance that throbbed with uncertainty. Emerging from the shaft, we stumbled into an attic, filled with remnants of our past, surrounded by cobwebs and dust. Old boxes lay haphazardly, some teetering on the edge of their precarious perches, while faded memories of our childhood watched from the corners. The scent of mustiness and forgotten time hung thick in the air as we surveyed our new prison, uncertain of our next move. Dylan fell to his knees, panting heavily as he steadied himself against a large trunk. "Where do we go now?" He lost himself in despair, tears pooling in his eyes. "What if they come for us here? What if—" "Stop," I interrupted firmly, forcing him to meet my gaze. "We can't afford to let fear overtake us any longer. Remember Mom's strength. We carry it with us." The very thought of her made the tears prick at my eyes, the echo of her sacrifice burrowing into my mind like a heavy stone. She had always been the heart of our family, a reservoir of strength and resilience. What would she want me to do now? Eliza, seizing the moment, stepped closer to Dylan, gently cupping his face in one hand. "You have to believe that she's fighting for us, too. We're not alone in this fight." Their eyes connected, an unspoken bond weaving between them. My sister's unwavering courage reminded me of the small moments of hope amidst the chaos that surrounded us. "Look." I pointed to an old, partially obscured window at the end of the attic. "If we can reach that opening, maybe we can signal for help." As we stumbled closer, my heart raced faster, writing an uncertain future with every beat against my ribs. Cautiously, we climbed over boxes, keeping our movements silent, noiseless in the tension swaddling the air. Beneath the layers of dust and memories, hidden truths lingered, waiting for me to discover. When we finally reached the window, an overwhelming gust of wind swept through, bringing with it whispers of the outside world, of children laughing, sirens wailing, and birds singing. With trembling fingertips, I pried the window open, only to be greeted by the unexpected sight of our neighborhood. Everything seemed untouched, images of ordinary life swirling below us, a harsh contrast to the darkness that had engulfed our home. But something felt eerily off. The familiar faces were now painted with worry, glancing up toward the house, sensing the heaviness that permeated the air. Before long, I spotted a flicker of movement toward the edge of the yard, a tall, cloaked figure standing silently, observing. Every instinct in me screamed at the danger, yet I dared not close the window. "There's someone there," I hissed. Dylan turned toward me, wide-eyed. "Who?" I squinted into the dusk, recognizing the shape. Shadows twisted on the figure's face, but the features came into focus, sending a cold shiver rippling down my spine. Vera, the neighbor, the one I always saw talking to Mom, Eliza. Dylan whispered urgently, clutching her arm. "What if she's connected to them?" But before we could retreat back into the attic, there came an unexpected shout from below. "Please. I'm here to help." Vera's voice resonated with sincerity, cutting through the tension. Like a knife. "You're not safe in there. I know things you don't have to trust me completely, but you must come down." For a fleeting heartbeat, I felt hope tickle the edges of my trepidation. But then, doubts mounted, wrestling with every instinct I had. She could be an ally, or a trap. "How can we trust you?" I called back, my voice trembling. "I've known your family for years." Vera resumed, clearly anxious. "Your mother spoke of the locket, the key. It's powerful, more than any of us could have imagined. What you seek means more than simply escape. Follow me, and I'll show you the truth." The shadows around us suddenly felt even darker, swallowing the glimmer of hope that dared to bloom. I glanced at Dylan and Eliza, weighing our options. Somehow, I knew this revelation was leading to a confrontation that could alter our very understanding of everything we believed. "Mom would want us to know the truth," I said, half to myself, half to them. But deep down, fear rooted itself at the base of my spine, a chilling warning dance, urging me to reconsider. The weight of our decision pressed down upon us, a crushing force cloaked in uncertainty. Before I could voice my thoughts, a rustling from the darkness interrupted. The looming figure surged forward, forcing us to take a step back. Whatever truth awaited us, whether it lay in the hands of Vera or within the shadows that spilled from every corner of our lives, it was an inevitable unknown we could no longer hide from. And though I felt loyalty to my mother's sacrifice, a deep-seated part of me recognized that love never came without risk. Little did we know that banding together came at a cost. The shadows danced closer still, inviting us deeper into this nightmarish tale, as I let Vera's words resonate, uncertain of our destiny. In that moment, everything hinged upon trust, both in one another and the unseen paths ahead. With a trembling exhale, I stepped toward the window, ready to challenge whatever awaited us. One thing was clear: the journey would test the limits of our love, a cost yet to be revealed. "We have to go," I whispered, crossing the threshold between hope and the overwhelming unknown. The night enveloped us like a shroud, heavy and full of foreboding. I clung to the window frame, my heart racing, desperate for clarity amidst the swirl of choices. Vera's voice lingered in my mind, an echo of urgent invitation, but also a haunting whisper of potential peril. As I surveyed the scene below, a small flicker of comfort ignited, a shared resolve igniting in my siblings' eyes. "Are we really doing this?" Dylan asked, the tremor in his voice fully betraying his uncertainty. Eliza's fingers intertwined with his, grounding him. I could feel her steady determination resonating between them. "It might be our only chance," I said, unable to suppress the tremor in my tone. "Whatever lies ahead, we have to confront it together." With a collective inhale, we stepped back from the window and retreated to the dimness of the attic. Dust motes danced in the filtered light, and I suddenly felt as though the house itself held its breath, watching, waiting. "Okay," I said, needing to muster our courage. Let's look for another way down. If Vera is telling the truth, then we need to find the right path." Together, we searched the attic, scouring for hidden exits or clues. Stacks of old books sat forlornly against the walls, their covers warped with time, while childhood toys lay draped in dust like relics, untouched. Each corner of the attic felt like a piece of our family's history. I ran my fingers over the spines of the books, feeling as if I were touching the very essence of our past. Suddenly, through a crevice behind an old wardrobe, I spotted a glimmer locket, intricately designed yet caked in time. Instinctively, I reached out to grab it, my fingers trembling as I lifted it from its hiding place. It felt cool against my palm and resonated with an unexplainable warmth, sending shockwaves across my body. "Eliza. Dylan, look at this!" I exclaimed, turning the locket over, revealing a symbol I had seen in pieces of my mother's old journals. It's her locket. What do you think it means?" Eliza asked, leaning closer to see. "I don't know," but my words trailed off as a sense of realization washed over me. It must be connected to what Vera said. "There's something more to this." As I spoke, a rush of wind whipped through the attic, extinguishing the meager light that filtered through the window, plunging us deeper into darkness. My heart raced, the shadows thickening around us. "Something isn't right," I murmured. Dylan stepped closer, his eyes wide with newfound urgency. "What if Vera is a part of all of this? What if she knows what this locket really means?" What if before he could finish, a loud crash resonated from below, stealing the breath from our lungs. The noise echoed through the house like a sinister drum, sending jagged shards of dread slicing through my heart. "We have to leave," I urged, clutching the locket as if it could shield us from the impending storm. We scrambled toward the stairs, ready to face whatever awaited us. The echoes of our steps felt like whispers of the past moments that reminded me of our family united against the world. Just as we reached the bottom, I halted, my mind racing through fragments of my mother's stories, the lessons she had instilled in us. "She believed in finding strength in darkness," I said, turning to my siblings. "If we truly want to discover the truth, we need to harness that." Dylan and Eliza shared a knowing glance, and in that brief moment, I could see their fears intertwining into the fabric of our shared determination. "Let's do this, together," Eliza said firmly, her voice unyielding. Pushing the door ajar, I stepped into the dimly lit hallway. The air was thick with tension, a palpable reminder of the uncertainty that loomed. A faint whisper wound its way through the air, and I strained to catch its meaning, recognizing the intimate timbre of our mother's voice. "Have faith no matter the shadows." But as we made our way down the hall, a figure appeared before us. It was Vera, yet the earlier warmth in her demeanor had been replaced with something colder, harsher. A light behind her flickered, casting a sinister shadow that danced dangerously against the walls. "Did you find it?" she asked, her voice a sinister caress slicing through the fragile air. "Who are you?" I demanded, clutching the locket tighter, unsure if it would offer any protection. With a cryptic smile, Vera edged closer, the shadows twisting around her, enshrouding her in darkness. "You thought you understood your mother's world, but there are truths even she feared to reveal." My heart plummeted into a chasm of the unknown, a churning tide of turmoil rising within me. It was as if a veil had been lifted, exposing glimpses of a reality that had lain just out of reach, one that threatened everything I knew. "Come closer, and I'll show you what your mother sacrificed to protect," she beckoned, her dark shroud growing thicker as she extended her hand. The room felt colder, the air thick with unease, as dread intertwined with a flicker of curiosity. I hesitated as shadows pressed against my skin, enveloping me in murmurs of uncertainty. "No!" I yelled, glancing back toward Eliza and Dylan. We might be walking into a trap. The choice lay perilously before us. Would we dare step into the unknown, exposing the truths buried in our mother's legacy? Or would we retreat, holding on to the fragile threads of our past, forever wondering about the darkness that had haunted us, before I could ponder further, a shuddering crack resounded from the attic, and another shadow flickered into existence behind Vera, the lurking thing that felt like an ominous harbinger of stormy destinies. And so, I stood between the whispering depths of revelation and the weight of my family's history, the heartbeat of our legacy pulsing around us. Whatever lay ahead, nothing could prepare us for the revelations that awaited. The air crackled with tension as Vera's outstretched hand beckoned, promising answers cloaked in shadows. I fought the urge to step forward, feeling the desperate pull of curiosity battling against the instinct to protect my siblings. "Wait!" I shouted, my voice wavered as it bounced off the hallway's walls. "What do you mean by sacrifice? What do you know about our mother?" Vera paused, and her expression shifted, if only for a moment, reflecting something that resembled pity or perhaps regret. "Your mother carried burdens far heavier than your child's mind can fathom. The weight of the truths she bore consumed her. But she loved you deeply enough to shield you from it all, even at great personal cost." Another crack reverberated through the floorboards, and I instinctively stepped closer to Eliza, who squeezed my hand, her nails digging sharply into my palm. Dylan's breath hitched, but he stood firm, determination etched across his features. "Then tell us," he demanded. "What did she hide from us? What are you?" Vera's smile twisted in the waning light, revealing something almost predatory. "You want to know? To truly know? Then perhaps you must feel the price of enlightenment," she said, and just like that, the air shifted, heavy with an unseen weight. Before I could react, the entity behind her surged forth, ominous yet incomprehensible, its darkness swirling like smoke. I instinctively drew Eliza and Dylan closer, shielding them from an unseen threat that seemed to seep into every crevice of the house. "Run!" I commanded, but my voice crackled under the weight of another sound, a soft dripping echo like raindrops falling in a still forest. The jaws of panic tightened around my chest as I looked again at Vera, uncertain if she was friend or foe. "Knowledge comes at a price, dear ones," she replied, her voice now a melodic siren song that promised both danger and enlightenment. "What your mother kept hidden is a world far removed from your sheltered existence." So many questions, yet so little time. Distracted by her words, my attention wavered from the gathering darkness behind her. Just then, amid the various thoughts swirling within me, I caught a glimmer of vibrant warmth shining brightly from the locket I still held tightly. Through the chaos, it exuded a strange brilliance, suffusing my surroundings in a glow that momentarily dispelled the shadows. "Stay away from us!" Eliza cried, resolve coursing through her voice like electricity. She stepped forward, the light from the locket reflective in her eyes. "You don't have power over us." To my astonishment, the air thickened with an overwhelming heaviness as if her words held weight, grounding us. The darkness recoiled slightly at her defiance, and for a fleeting moment, the figure wavered, a flicker of doubt breaking through its ominous facade. "That locket is not what you think it is," Vera interrupted, piercing my heart with her gaze. "It binds you to a legacy that transcends the ordinary. You can either have it weigh you down or let it guide you." Chaos erupted just outside the corridor. The sound of hurried footsteps pierced the walls, an unexpected clamor that surged forth with urgency. "Our cousins? Neighbors?" My heart raced with the dread of pausing to face Vera longer, but the weight of the truth spiraled around me like a relentless tempest. The air became charged with something more than a revelation as voices neared. My heart thudded in my chest, caught between the truths that could rip apart our family and the chance for survival that now seemed so precarious. "Perhaps another time," Vera intoned, stepping back into the shadows, leaving the echo of her presence lingering like a fading heartbeat. "When you are ready to face the sacrifices made by the ones who loved you. Their sacrifices were not in vain." Before we could process her words, momentum surged back into my legs, and I turned, pulling Eliza and Dylan toward the front door. The voices outside grew louder, the sound merging with the pounding of my heart, fueling the wild desire to flee to escape this horrifying dance with shadows. But before we reached the threshold, a hand shot out from the enveloping darkness, a hand belonging to someone familiar, someone we wished to see but now carried an uncanny presence. "Stop!" the figure shouted, revealing the ghost of all our childhood fears. Our father, his face gaunt and weary, eyes hollow as though he had wandered through a lifetime of shadows. "You shouldn't have come here." The last word echoed in a chilling resonance, filling the air with confusion. A swirl of disbelief consumed me as I locked eyes with him. "But Dad," I stammered, every emotion within me entangled in disbelief. "Stay away from Vera," he shouted, the urgency in his voice slicing through the shock. "You don't know what she can do. What had we stumbled into?" As the weight of my heart felt ready to collapse from the unshed tears of myriad questions, one realization struck like lightning: the world around us was not just filled with fear, it was a delicate tapestry of revelations waiting to unravel. The echo of my father's warning carved through the air, heavy with urgency and confusion. The shadows danced ominously around us as I tried to reconcile the impossibility of his presence. I had imagined him haunted by memories that felt as vivid as the pulse in my veins, yet here he stood, a specter born of my deepest fears. "Dad." I finally found the courage to ask, my voice trembling. "We thought." He shook his head fiercely. "I know what you thought. I left to protect you from this." The pain in his voice was palpable, an unyielding truth tied to the love had always harbored for you, even if it had been shrouded in darkness. "You have to trust me. The key and that locket, it's all connected to a world you don't know." I glanced at Eliza and Dylan, searching their expressions for clarity, for answers that remained just out of reach. "But we're already entangled. We can't turn back now," I urged, the words tumbling out like untempered emotions. "Entangled," he echoed bitterly, a storm swirling in his eyes. "You have no idea of the price that is paid by those who wield such power." The shadows hummed with unease as his words bore into my mind, whispering tales of sacrifice, of choices made long before we had drawn breath. "But we don't want it. The key, the locket, none of this should have happened." I felt a surge of desperation clawing at my heart, the hurt of all he had left behind bubbling to the surface. "We should have been a family." "Exactly," he replied, sadness intertwining with a grim resolve. "And that's what makes our love so dangerous. There are people force that covet what we carry, and I can't let them take you." His expression softened, the anger melting into something warmer yet laced with sorrow. "But I need you to trust me now, to listen." My gaze shifted to the shadows that had once promised adventure and now held ominous threats, looming closer as their murmurings grew louder. "What do we do?" I asked, unable to steady the quiver in my voice. "Those who seek the key believe they can control it. They want you to surrender it. Surrender yourselves. And trust me, my children, they will rip it from your grasp if we let them." He reached out for us, but I stepped back, confusion wrapping around my heart like chains. "Why should we trust you?" Dylan interjected, his voice burning with righteous anger. "You left us." "I left because I had no choice." My father bowed his head, defeat resonating in his body as he gazed at the floor. "You must understand, I thought I was saving the family by distancing myself from the darkness that feasts on our secrets. But I see now the darkness never truly left." The house rattled around us, blurring the lines between past and present. Unease crept into my soul. How many secrets had been embedded in our family legacy? Would they be our undoing? But before I could voice my torment, a piercing scream erupted from the depths of the house, shattering our fragile moment of clarity. It ripped throughout the hollow walls, echoing promises of anguish and urgency. "Mom!" I blurted, realizing just how vulnerable we truly were. "Go!" my father commanded, motioning vaguely toward the door. "Find your mother, she may still be able to contain the chaos. It's not too late." Fear mingled with desperation, every fiber in my being urged me to run. I didn't want to know how deep the darkness sprawled, I just needed to find her, to pull her back to us. I felt Dylan's hand grip mine, nudging me forward. "We have to go, now." But as I turned toward the doorway, I caught sight of Vera once more, emerging from the shadows, her previously benign demeanor shifting to something much darker and predatory. "Ah, but not without understanding your legacy," she crooned, the light from the nearby window flickering ominously. You are bound by the very essence of your family's past. They have sacrificed greatly, my dear, and if you wish to escape, you must surrender the key. No. You don't know what you're asking for. I felt the pounding of my heart echo through the words. But deep down, I could sense the truth behind her glimmering eyes. She wanted to pull us back into the darkness, to make us tie ourselves to our family's plight. And in that moment of struggle, a sudden flash of brilliance surged through my fingertips, a manifestation of the locket's essence, the key to everything that had once brought hope. We won't abandon what has made us strong, I shouted, releasing its glow into the surrounding darkness. We have loved too fiercely to allow fear to triumph again. What is this madness? Vera hissed, taken aback by the sudden intensity radiating from the locket. And for the first time, I felt a spark of power course through us, igniting a connection that rippled with warmth amid the shadows. We will not surrender to you. Eliza joined, her voice now emboldened, a command that bound us together, sealing our fate against impending darkness. Just then, the house trembled as if caught in an earthquake, flickering lights confirming our decision and marking this moment as pivotal in our lives. I felt my father's presence behind me, the strength growing, the shadows momentarily pulled back by a flicker of light that erupted into the cadence of our collective heartbeat, each pulse an undying promise of protection and love. And in that moment, everything crystallized for me. The key had been a symbol of what we must protect, the bond between us, forged from sacrifice and shimmering with hope. We were not mere victims of the shadows, we were the essence of our family, embracing both love and darkness but refusing to be defined by it. Together, I murmured, as the chaos surged around us, but it was drowned by the strength burgeoning within, unchained and unstoppable. Together, Eliza echoed, and Dylan nodded in agreement, fierceness igniting his eyes. Vera's expression turned from intrigue to desperation as I saw the shadows shift wildly, crawling along the walls, trying to envelop the light we had summoned. No. You don't know what you're doing. I know I'm loving, I declared firmly. And you can't take that from me. With every ounce of belief radiating from within, we rushed towards the doorway, no longer caged in fear but soaring free in hope, the darkness dissipating as we surged forward, hand in hand. And just when it felt as if the shadows would reclaim their hold amid the storm, a radiant light burst into being, a symbolic embrace of our family's unity illuminating everything, enfolding each of us within its warmth. In that moment, as we stepped into the unknown, we forged our legacy. The shadows shrieked against the brilliance of our love, though they diminished, evaporating like morning mist under a rising sun. Behind me, I felt echoes of my mother's vision, her whispers rippling through the winds of our choices. In the aftermath, as we clasped each other tightly, I realized fully, the key lived not just in an object but within us. A testament to the power of love boldly shattering the darkness, reshaping everything in its path. Let's build a future that cherishes every sacrifice made for us. The only price we owe is love. And with that vow resonating in the air, we moved forward into whatever awaited us, unfurling the tapestry of our lives, drenched in the vivid hues of our past, and empowered to step into an illuminating dawn. In the end, it wasn't about the wealth we sought, but the treasures of family and the undying strength woven through both light and shadow. We were free now, or perhaps just beginning to understand that freedom and sacrifice were the very fabric of our existence, one that would continue to shape and deepen with each breath we took together. And so, standing amidst the rising sun, I dared whisper the final truth, me heart a cacophony of gratitude and peace. Together, we will rise.